Well, good evening and welcome to Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ plus daily evening television news. We're broadcasting live and then available on demand. And we are available on all smart televisions, including Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, Amazon Fire TV, YouTube, and Facebook. It's time to queer up the news. It's Tuesday, August 29th, 2023. We are live and literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we're going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
This is the world's first live daily LGBTQ evening news show, literally out of the closet and into the headlines on Queer News Tonight with Al Ferguson.
I'm your anchor at Queer News Tonight, Al Ferguson, and this evening we bring you the news of and a perspective representing the LGBTQ plus community from South Florida, America, and across our planet.
This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ plus evening news show. Whatever happens unique in LGBTQ plus news, you will see it and hear it.
HOTspots magazine Happening Out television network is a non-profit 501c3 media company in the same model of PBS and NPR, but designed for the LGBTQ plus community. Our mission is to support the 10 pillars of our LGBTQ plus community. We want to inform and educate the key issues of our Black community, Latino, lesbians and queer women, trans, students, youth, seniors, HIV/AIDS healthcare, business, social justice, and faith. Help us support our community.
We are part of one of the largest LGBTQ plus media companies in America, HOTspots magazine and Happening Out television network.
Our magazine is celebrating 38 years of the LGBTQ plus experience, and our television, news, talk, and entertainment shows support our mission to educate the LGBTQ plus and broader community.
Well, please give a warm welcome to Mateo Ventura Bruer, the Executive Director of the Aqua Foundation for Women. Mateo is proudly trans and Latina and is Aqua's first transgender Executive Director. Welcome, Mateo.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Let's welcome anchor Bad Papi. Bad Papi is a Latina gender-fluid drag artist who redefines what it means to be trans and non-binary in the Latin community. They perform to popular Latin songs, providing a humorous and often insightful take on gender roles in Latin America to forward LGBTQ plus rights and empower the LGBTQ plus Latin community. Bad Papi is an icon for the Latin LGBTQ plus community and will forever be the baddest Papi in town. Welcome, Bad Papi.
Thank you. So good to be here.
Let's welcome Evyn Almanzar. Evyn is a trans student at J.P. Tarabella High School here in Broward County, where he just started his junior year. He has been publicly speaking out as an advocate for mental health and queer student rights since the age of 12. Welcome, Evyn.
Glad to be back.
And let's welcome anchor Jonathan Casanas, a board member of Forward Miami. He is also one of the producers of the Gay Aid Festival, the largest Latin diversity and inclusion festival in America. Good evening, Jonathan.
Good evening, Al.
We are the reporters for Queer News Tonight, and this evening we begin with the queer headlines. The LGBTQ plus community in South Florida and across America is diverse. Our community across the world is vast, and here are the bullet points of the queer news for today, Tuesday, August 29th. Well, let's queer up South Florida and Florida. Visit Lauderdale offers options for people of all abilities. Visit Lauderdale, aka the Greater Fort Lauderdale Convention and Visitors Bureau, is the tourism marketing organization for Broward County, Florida, where more than 13 million annual visitors support 180,000 direct and indirect tourism jobs and spend over $8 billion. Visit Lauderdale believes in accessible tourism and welcoming everyone under the sun. Greater Fort Lauderdale welcomes visitors of all abilities to enjoy 31 vibrant communities in Broward County and works to remove barriers to provide a quality experience for all, including people with visible and invisible disabilities. Accessible tourism is not only about human rights, but also an opportunity to educate and embrace all visitors. The Hidden Disabilities Sunflower Program at Fort Lauderdale International Airport offers guests with hidden disabilities, including learning difficulties, mental health, mobility, speech, visual, and hearing impairments, a discreet way to request help or extra time while traveling through the airport. Many Fort Lauderdale hotels, attractions, theaters, beaches, and transportation providers go above and beyond to provide a seamless experience no matter what your needs may be. Visit Lauderdale works very hard to provide information on wheelchairs, the availability of sign language interpreters and listening devices, and the understanding of the autism spectrum. Some of the programs of Visit Lauderdale include Abilities Expo Fort Lauderdale, which will be held this October, the Sunflower Visible and Invisible Program, and the Deaf Seniors of America Conference. Watch this. You know, this program is so LGBT. And when I say so LGBT, it is so LGBT because it represents diversity, which is what our community represents. And it's interesting to me, in all of the places I've traveled all over the world, 147 countries I've traveled to, I don't think I've ever seen a destination in the world that embraces diversity in the way that Visit Lauderdale and South Florida, but specifically Broward County does. And that representation of diversity is inclusive and inclusion mission of this community, which means everybody is welcome. And in the environment that we're watching in Florida, I think that that's a very, very important thing.
Absolutely. I mean, I think this really touches upon the subject of intersectionality. You know, I'm queer, but I'm also trans, I'm also Latin, I'm also disabled. And this is a really important program because it's touching upon that very subject, which is that we are all multifaceted human beings with different identities, and we all deserve to be included.
And it's also putting it back on the provider and not just on the person who needs an accommodation. The world should be made more accessible, and we should be providing those supports without people needing to ask.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's screaming queer coded, and I think it's amazing how they're acknowledging that everyone deserves a level of care because they are human, because we are all connected. And I think that they're trying to provide a space where we can have that connection and have that real interaction with another human being, and where people don't have to beg for these different accommodations. They should just have them laid out for them. They don't have to go searching around mountains for them.
Yeah, and I think it's a great way to bring people here to our community in Wilton Manor specifically, where we're one of the queerest places in the world. And I have disabled folks in my building, and they just kind of take themselves easily to the bars and restaurants that are just on the strip. And I always think when they are in the elevator with me, I'm like, how great it is to see them living a normal life just as I am, where in other cases they wouldn't be. Not only that, but Florida has a really bad reputation. This is just a great way to showcase and market to other people outside of Florida that we're doing great things for the community.
You know, one last thought. I think it's interesting. We've gotten through June Pride Month. We talk about rainbow capitalism so much through the course of the year. Corporate pursuers, businesses that pursue economic benefit. That's what America is, after all. They step in and then they step out. Mm-hmm. And they embrace diversity and LGBT, and then they step out. It's interesting to me when we talk about this and use the disability platform that we're showing what is happening here in tourism. We don't specifically say LGBT in this story, but it is LGBT. And then You ask yourself the question, is it the chicken or the egg? $8 billion is spent here. 1.2 million LGBT travelers a year to Fort Lauderdale and Broward County. Are they doing it for the money, or are they doing it because of the commitment of diversity? And it's really interesting here because you never hear, oh, this is just rainbow capitalism. It really isn't, because the commitment to diversity and inclusion is what leads to the success of the $8 billion in the community. It is the platform of one feeds the other. It's the quintessential proof that you don't want rainbow capitalism. You don't want business organizations to step in and step out. You want to believe they're committed 365. And that's exactly what we're watching. Tourism in Visit Lauderdale. Awesome.
So next, let's queer up the USA View. After California Library kicks out transphobic group, they get threatened with a bombing. Watch this.
I will give you one warning on that.
It was a packed room at the Mary L. Stevens Library on Sunday when the group Moms for Liberty Yolo County held their meeting.
Losing our rights to privacy, dignity, and safe sports.
A mom of two, Allie Schneider, was at the meeting and was in line to speak. The group called the meeting a fair and safe sports for girls, alongside a discussion about transgender students participating in sports.
Physical damage being done right now to girls and women who are forced to share their single-sex spaces with men and boys who call themselves women.
But within 10 minutes, Schneider says library staff kicked them out.
I'm asking them to leave.
Got completely drowned out and shoved out by the library official.
The group continued at a nearby park, but Schneider says she believes the library violated their rights to free speech.
It seems like they continue to put up roadblocks to keep us from, again, exercising our First Amendment rights.
Then on Monday afternoon, Davis Police and the Yolo County Sheriff's Office got a tip about a potential bomb threat at the same library.
It made a specific statement saying that the library was going to blow up at 3 p.m. And it made some type of a derogatory term towards the LGBTQ community.
About 10 library employees were evacuated as law enforcement searched the building.
And no explosives were located.
We asked the sheriff's office if there is any possibility the bomb threat and the Moms for Liberty meeting were linked.
We don't know if there's any link to it at this time.
For Schneider, she says she has no idea who's behind the bomb threat and tells us she does not support that type of response. However, she does have a stern message for county officials.
We all have a First Amendment right, freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of belief.
A caller used anti-LGBTQ plus hate speech to issue a bomb threat against the library in Davis, California, near Sacramento. This forced the Mary L. Stevens Library and a nearby elementary school to evacuate. The threat came the day after a right-wing group tried to have an event at the library that didn't go as expected. On Sunday, the Yolo County chapter of Moms for Liberty, an anti-civil rights group, held an event attacking transgender athletes' inclusion in sports. As the event progressed, audience complaints prompted library staff to warn speakers that misgendering athletes violates the library's code of conduct. Library staff member Scott Love interjected and asked speakers to be respectful, or if they continue misgendering trans athletes, be asked to leave. Love explained that in California, under state law, transgender women are recognized as women. Sophia Laurie, a former college soccer player at Vanguard University, who was speaking at the event, continued her speech anyway and was soon joined by far-right anti-trans activist Aaron Friday. The event eventually came to a halt. In the evening, one conservative activist, Jonathan Casanas, posted his account of the event on Twitter. Soon, the anti-trans activist Riley Gaines shared the post demanding the name and phone number of the librarian. The next day, before 3 p.m., police issued an alert in response to the bomb threat after several right-wing publications and blogs published articles on the incident. So this is obviously just a lot of fear-mongering from the Conservative Party. I think there's a lot of misinformation being spread about trans people and about sports in general. So first of all, people aren't binary. We have, obviously the categories of male and female, but not everybody falls in those categories, including myself. I'm an intersex person. I have higher levels of testosterone than the average person assigned female at birth, and I would automatically be disqualified if they took my hormone levels at any women's sports event. I mean, obviously I'm not a woman, but if I was. In addition, trans women have the same hormone levels as cis women, so I don't understand why they're making it a big deal when the biology is, not different. And in addition to that, male and female athletes have competed in the past. And actually, not surprisingly, there were a lot of cis women who outcompeted cis men. And that's exactly why they segregated the sport, because men couldn't take it.
Yeah. I mean, I think we should be celebrating the diversity and the different biologies. Everyone is different. Some people are going to be faster. Some people are going to be better. And if that happens to be because of how they were born, which, as studies have shown, has no statistical impact, why do we care? And
do you think, curious from your seat, do you think Moms for Liberty chapters are out to celebrate diversity?
No, but I think they should let people compete, and whoever's best. Whoever's fastest is fastest. And I think, yes, they have a right to free speech, but we shouldn't be giving them a platform. Whatever, I've missed whatever local station that was. Why are you giving an opportunity in front of a camera?
And saying things like freedom of speech, like, once, where is that line that you cross before it disrupts society, before you create a bomb threat scenario? Like, we need to stop letting these people have this platform in that way, and then saying that, oh, poor me, I'm allowed to speak. You are allowed to speak, but you're losing every time, because now you're associated with a terrorist. You're no longer in the safe zone where we can hear what you're saying. Now it's just you're on mute now.
There is freedom of speech within the United States to a certain extent. It's the same way that if the US goes to war with another country, you can actually get arrested and thrown into jail if you say anything against the United States. Free speech only goes to a certain extent until you are harming another human being with it. That's why there are children getting taken away from their parents for abuse.
Unfortunately, here in America, they don't consider persecuting minorities as a hurt or a violation of any sort. And that's, I think, the problem. They have absolutely no empathy for other people, and they just don't see it as a bad thing. They feel it as their right.
I want to make a couple of observations about Moms for Liberty. Something interesting is going on in the story that I see, and I just want to draw a connection to. They're outside of Sacramento. And in California is overwhelmingly blue. Overwhelmingly blue. And Moms for Liberty is saying over and over again, I have a First Amendment, I have a free speech right, I have a free speech right. Well, the reason why Karen, blonde hair, is saying that is because she's in California. And there's tremendous numbers of voices around her shouting her down in opposition to the point of view that she's doing. So her argument is free speech. But it's interesting, Moms for Liberty in Florida is very, very different than Moms for Liberty in California. Because in Moms for Liberty in Florida, they're not screaming free speech. They're screaming no speech. We don't want to hear from you. Compare and contrast to the different approaches. It proves to you it's not truth they're pursuing. It's their way they're pursuing.
Absolutely.
The point and proof of that is, as I watch her, she wears a shirt that says female. Now, she did that to be highly offensive.
Obviously.
Because she has the First Amendment to say what she says. She has, of course, the First Amendment right to wear that shirt. But how would people feel if that exact same shirt said no blacks, no Jews, no queers? It's the exact same thing. I take it one step farther, but she is pushing in everyone's face, there is only this. And meaning there is only this and this. It is binary. That is not true. It is not true. And then she argues for free speech. The other thing that I want to point out about Moms for Liberty, We say in this story, Papi has just said it's an anti-LGBT group. Respectfully, I argue with you, because anti-LGBT doesn't even begin to quantify what Moms for Liberty is. And we sit right in it because our governor helped create Moms for Liberty and then export it all over the country. Moms for Liberty is an organization, and in general, you look at organizations, Southern Poverty Law Center, for example, they quantify organizations that are dangerous that try to eliminate voice and speech. Isn't that what happened with Don't Say Gay? Yeah. They're an organization that eliminates visibility and any presentation. In Florida, we don't even want to recognize that trans exists. And a cabinet member and the chairman of the GOP in Florida said, if you don't agree with Don't Say Gay and our implementation on trans, get the hell out of the state of Florida. That is an implementation that they are eliminating visibility. They want to deny that you are even existing. Correct. Now, in those three standards, almost any place in the world, what would you identify a group like that as? Which is Southern Poverty says.
Terrorist.
They're a terrorist group.
Yeah.
Moms for Liberty, I argue, is a terrorist group.
Absolutely.
Because they're not arguing for free speech. That's what they have to argue in Sacramento, California, to even speak.
Yeah.
Correct.
With her female shirt on.
Yeah.
In Florida, they don't have to do that. So they are denying existence of a lot of people at this table. And for all intents and purposes, they want to deny that you even exist.
And the reason why is because they want to uplift the patriarchy, white supremacy, and all the things in power that keeps them in power.
So put on your shirt, Nazi. Put on your shirt, white.
Perfect.
One point to that you made, though, about California versus Florida. You're 100% right, but I do want to emphasize to the people who might live in a more liberal place, you're not safe either.
Correct.
You know, there are plenty of red pockets, plenty of people who, she's there outside of Sacramento. Yeah. That's a college town, first of all. It should be a little more liberal, but she's also in farm country.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and the motivations are kind of tired too. Like in Florida, their motivation is the children, that we're after their children. And trans people are known to be the safest people to be around. They've done nothing to any other community, and that is just tired. And this free speech is just as tired. And I think they need to move on from that.
The thing with Moms for Liberty is that they like to sugarcoat themselves. They're like, oh, we're moms, and they have the title.
So are trans people.
They have the title. They're like Liberty, Moms for Liberty, but they're not actually Moms for Liberty, because they're not thinking about, what if this was my child I was going against?
Yeah.
What if my little 11-year-old comes out to me?
Yeah.
I don't care.
So next, let's queer up HOTspots. HOTspots, on stands Thursday, puts Hottie Eli Ramos to work for Labor Day. The new HOTspots magazine issue will be on stands this Thursday, and as usual, the magazine has brought content for every reader out there, be it hot models, inspiring LGBTQ+ leaders, exciting food recipes, new queer brands in town, or the hot events of the week. The magazine has everything. Talking about the hot models, we have a name for you. 31-year-old HOTspots Hottie's cover model, Eli Ramos. He is single and moving to Miami very soon. He is the director of business development for Park Place Spa and Body Sculpt and loves to spend time with his family. His definition of the perfect date includes a walk on a beach followed by salsa in the rain. If you think he is your type, you can follow him on social media and maybe perform some laborious tasks with him this Labor Day weekend. His profile name is given in the magazine. Plus, do not forget to go through other exciting articles in the magazine about the gay pro wrestler Anthony Bowens, Doma's defeater Eddie Windsor, and more. Grab your free copy of the magazine on Thursday before they're gone. So, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, go get your copy of the magazine, I guess. It sounds like there's a lot of really good stuff in there.
That was like a Tinder profile.
It did.
That you read right there. Like,
all I
can't wait to hear Jonathan.
All I got from that is that I will be doing laborious tasks with Eli. That's all I got from that.
Yeah, like, I mean, is it innuendo, or is he just trying to get people to help redo his house? You know,
you never know.
Could be anything.
Maybe it's both.
It's one of the reasons, you know, honestly, it's one of the reasons, we're sitting here at Queer News Tonight, part of the media group. We deliver we deliver representation in LGBT media in various different ways. One of the things I love about HOTspots is, I think in the story that Mateo just did, it's absolutely that. It comes on stands tomorrow, and it has a little something for everybody. We need Eli Ramos. Believe me, of all the people at the table, I heard and paid attention.
You definitely
to the
need
story.
him.
Wait, what? Yeah, and especially when he's having salsa on the beach and a nice walk in the rain. And
I know salsa. I know how to walk in the rain. It's pretty easy. I will say HOTspots is like iconic for this. Like, if it wasn't for this iconic magazine and these types of front covers, like, a lot of people wouldn't feel comfortable with themselves or with wearing like caution tape over their bodies and taking it to the club, because I've been known to do that specifically because I've seen this in these types of magazines. So shout out
That was
to
an eye grabber.
HOTspots.
That was definitely an eye grabber.
We have to, I think that's the point too, is when people try to argue, oh, no kink at Pride or no nudity at Pride. It's like, no, we have to celebrate the fact that we've been demonized for all these centuries for the way that we have sex or the way that we love other people. We have to normalize that.
One last thought about your point, both of the points that were just made. One of the things that I think is great, and for me, I'm trying to keep front and center. How do we deal with this governor? How do we deal with the radical politics? How do we deal with this evangelical, the terrorist groups like Moms for Liberty? One of which is, we don't let them paint us with the brush that they want to paint us with. We are not any one thing. We are this and this and this and this and this. And when people begin to understand that, we're in a situation where that they will believe that they will believe that we represent everything, and when they do, there's much greater acceptance.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say that we should deliver a box of the magazines to the governor's mansion. But,
there's an idea.
That works too.
Next, let's queer up education. California sues school district that requires teachers to out students. California's Attorney General sued a Southern California school district Monday over its recently adopted policy that requires schools to notify parents if their children change their gender identification or pronouns. Attorney General Rob Bonta said that he filed a lawsuit against the Chino Valley Unified School District over the policy that mandated this notification, calling it a forced outing of transgender students that violates their civil rights. The move comes after Chino Valley Unified adopted the policy following a shift in leadership on the school board. Other Southern California districts have adopted similar policies, and Bonta says he believes that they will also be affected by this litigation, though they are not named in the suit. The suit argues that the policy discriminates against transgender and gender nonconforming students and violates the state's constitution, which requires equal protection for all students regardless of their gender expression, identity, or sexual orientation. It also argues the policy violates students' privacy rights. The policies have sparked divisions in communities between those who say parents have a right to know the decisions their children are making at school and those who say that such policies would forcibly out transgender students to their parents and threaten the well-being of some of the most vulnerable students. Watch this.
This policy has managed to violate multiple constitutional rights of our students, multiple statutory rights of our students, their right to privacy, their right to equal protection, their right to be free from discrimination.
Bonta announcing the lawsuit in downtown LA. His goal is to stop enforcement of a rule passed by the Chino Valley School Board last month. It requires parents to be notified if their children change their gender identity. Bonta adds outing kids before they're ready could cause serious psychological harm, may even put them in physical danger in households that bash LGBTQ lifestyles. The Murrieta Valley School Board passed a similar notification policy earlier this month. Chino Valley Unified has responded to the lawsuit, saying the parent notification policy does protect transgender students by requiring staff to notify Child Protective Services and law enforcement if the student believes they are in danger due to their parent or guardian knowing of their preferred gender identity. In these circumstances, staff will not notify parents, but rather will wait for the appropriate agencies to complete their investigation. The district also adds parents have a right to know what's happening with their kids.
All right, I understand that was a little bit of a confusing video. At the beginning we had, all right, here you go. you tell the parents. And then at the end there, we got a little bit of, oh, but not if they're unsafe, and inform CPS. If it's going to cause that many issues, just don't let it happen. I understand the motivation of, yes, parents should know, but parents should know when the children feel safe enough in their own identity and within that household to go and tell their family. That should be the child's right. Mm-hmm. That should be any person's right to come out when they are ready. And they're taking that away from them. And I don't think that's fair. And I'm glad that this suit has been filed.
Yeah. I mean, as a parent, I want to know if my child got in a fight at school. I don't need to know if she wanted to go by different pronouns. And I should already know. She should tell me. Just this morning, she goes, "No, I'm a girl." I'm like, okay, that's cool. Because I said I'm not. I'm like, all right.
I bet you're going to be the coolest father.
Mateo's already the coolest dad. Like, that title's reserved for him.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, for oh, damn. So this story messes with my heart because I was outed at 18 by my mother. She told the whole family, including my father, and I grew up in a very Cuban, machismo, scary, I'm talking like things were thrown. It was very abusive. My dad
I feel you.
My dad's a changed person now.
Yeah.
But I can only imagine if I was younger and someone told him, it would have been scary for me.
Yeah,
Imagine
absolutely.
the story that you just told. Evan's 16 years old, a junior in high school.
Exactly.
And you're 16 in that situation.
Yeah.
You're just
and I had to run away from home. I moved out. I stayed in a house with friends. I eventually took over the lease. And then a lot of my friends had the similar situation. So I would allow them to stay on my couch. This bothers me because when they are outed, the parents don't react in the way that you think when it comes from the child themselves.
Yeah.
They can show you the emotions they're going through. They can tell you stories from the horse's mouth, what it is that they're going through. And the parent will sometimes have some empathy for the child. When a CPS worker or some sort of social worker comes to you and says it in a very, medical way, it becomes a violation of themselves and how they treated and how they raised their kid. And so they take offense to that. And then in turn, they take it out on their child. Yeah. And so this is not how it should be handled.
Let's call a spade a spade. The reason, in my opinion, and same confusion that Evan points out, but let's call a spade why it's confusing. This is a conservative. I know all of us in general go, no outing, protect the identity, it balances with parental rights, etc. The reason why they throw all of that confusion into, except if there's the possibility of maybe there could be danger, and the only reason the school district does that is to get it passed.
Yeah.
It's a CYA.
It's to cover your ass, for sure. That's the only reason that they did that. And that's an indication that they have problems with the entire policy.
But let me tell you, if you're a parent and your child isn't telling you something, like specifically about their identity, think about the kind of environment that you're putting your child to.
Or the messaging, because maybe they don't even know because the conversations never come up.
Yeah.
They don't even know how you feel, and they don't want to.
Or
they don't want to
maybe the
find
parent
out.
doesn't care. There could be lots of reasons. The one other thing that I think is really interesting about this story, we're talking about Chino, a school district in California. Oh wait, no, we're not. We're talking about Broward County, Florida, because Broward County's school district is almost identical in this example to that California school district. But you know what the difference is? It's exactly the opposite. California says, no way are you going to do this to students in our school districts in California. And this district tries to cover your ass and cover themselves by saying, no, we don't want this kind of identification, and therefore we're going to out our children to their parents. But this possible exception to make sure that there's no danger and blah, 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 blah. I'm going to talk as fast as I possibly can. But California says no. Liberal, progressive California says no to this conservative philosophy. Now you have unique appreciation of what's going on in Broward County. Because the radical that we see in Tallahassee, in the governor's mansion, in the supermajority, in Moms for Liberty, in almost all of the counties in Florida, Broward County is trying to stand alone exactly like that in reverse. And we're having to stand up to this incredible pressure to do the exact same thing, and Broward County is trying to stand up to it. The only reason I make that comparison is we should be incredibly empathetic to the politicians in Broward County, to our school board in Broward County, to the people that are going to be removed by the governor for whimsical justifications, because literally Broward County is under attack in the state of Florida. Exactly what we're watching. And Chino's going to lose. California's going to win. The question is Broward County going to lose and Florida going to win? That we don't know yet.
Yep.
All right, well, let's move on. Let's queer up religion, shall we? Pope calls out U.S. conservatives as backwards over social justice issues. Pope Francis has blasted the backwardness of some conservatives in the U.S. Catholic Church, saying they have replaced faith with ideology and that a correct understanding of Catholic doctrine allows for change over time. Francis's comments were an acknowledgement of visions in the U.S. Catholic Church, which has been split between progressives and conservatives who long found support in the doctrinaire papacies of St. Paul II and Benedict XVI, particularly on issues of abortion and same-sex marriage. Many conservatives have blasted Francis's emphasis and called them radical. Francis made the comments in a private meeting with Portuguese members of his Jesuit religious order while visiting Lisbon on August 5th. The Jesuit journal La Civiltà Católica, which is vetted by the Vatican Secretariat of State, published a transcript of the encounter. During the meeting, a Portuguese Jesuit told Francis that he had suffered during a recent sabbatical year in the U.S. because he came across many Catholics, including some U.S. bishops, who criticized Francis's 10-year papacy as well as today's Jesuits. Pope Francis acknowledged his point, saying there was a very strong, organized, and reactionary attitude in the U.S. Church, which is backward. He warned that such an attitude leads to a climate of closure, which was erroneous. Now, I'm going to be the ass in the room because I just don't feel like any of this holds weight to me anymore. Like when I think of children, right? Let's talk about Florida in particular, of who is in danger and who are we in danger from. And we're going to assume it's the church all the time. And I just feel like, sure, Pope Francis is a bit more progressive than we're used to. But his messaging for me just doesn't hold as much value. As much as I want it to, as much as I want to tell people he is a bit more progressive, even though he still says things are not as it seems, it's still okay to be in a same-sex marriage.
Why do you think he's doing that? From your interpretation, the Cuban family, historically Catholic?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was baptized.
Right, exactly. And I've read the book. I know how it works. Why is he doing this, do you think?
Because he wants the reputation to get better. He wants to take the eyes off of the army that he runs of the of the raping that they're doing to children, right? Like it's obvious to me that he's doing this, and I feel like he is a bit more progressive, but it's obvious that it's just a marketing tactic to steer away from this reputation.
You don't believe him then?
I do believe him, but I believe that it is well played.
I don't think it's only a marketing tactic.
Yeah.
I do think if we look back at some of the, and I'm also raised Catholic, not Catholic anymore, but I love Pope Francis, but complicated religious trauma, we all got it. But
we all got it.
We all got it. But the thing I think, if we look back at kind of the legacy, he has definitely is not without critique. There are things he did in Argentina during the war that definitely are worth critique and worth looking at. And I think, unfortunately, for the millions of Catholics around the world, it's still very important. So if a little bit of positive messaging is going to have a large and direct impact on the lives of queer people across the world. And my own grandmother is very, very Catholic. And I was so afraid to come out to her. I literally came out to her last week. And she immediately started calling me Mateo. Immediately, she used to address all my letters Mrs. Zach Bruer, my husband's name. And she sent me a letter addressed to my own name, Mateo, and sent me a thing from the Pope. And I'm like, wow, she took it better than anyone else in my family.
And what did she send you from the Pope?
Oh, I don't just like an article like that, just about what he said about accepting trans people.
Well, but wait, I just want to make the connection of the dots. I'm thrilled with that reaction. I remind everybody, there's 1 billion Catholics. The Pope opens the curtains that much. That's light getting into the room that was never in the room for Mateo's grandmother.
And I believe, I do believe that, and I do believe he's the most progressive Pope that we've had. I do believe that.
Away from your point of what doing.
Because he still thinks it's a sin, right?
Right.
He still thinks it's a sin. He is just not going to manage your life, is how he is wording it.
Yeah, he's not gonna like give you. The
Isn't that a step in the right direction? Though?
Sure. Yeah, we'll take the win. Yeah.
The thing is, in addition to you, for example, or people like you not necessarily believing the Pope, there's also people, you know, who are devoted Catholics, who aren't queer, who also don't believe the Pope or take him seriously too. I've heard many Catholics basically brush him off, and not only that, but they say that's not my Pope. Kind of like they do with the president. So it's also
because of the liberal or more liberal comments that make.
Exactly.
That's super interesting.
Emperor
my grandfather
Palpatine's
said the same
gone,
thing.
so.
What?
I said Emperor Palpatine.
Yeah. just one final note before we come out of this, that this is fascinating to me, because first and foremost, this is about the 6th story we've done in the last 12 months about these little nuggets that he keeps throwing down on the table. And it's interesting to me, you don't believe it, or kind of quasi, you have a little bit more embracement in terms of what's going on. My reaction is right now, Whoopi Goldberg in the movie Ghost is playing in my head, and Whoopi is leaning into the Pope and going, you in danger, girl. Yeah. And the reason is because he's got the Illuminati. And the Illuminati is real.
Yeah.
They are the scary ones of these evangelicals that are really the deep state in the Vatican that are going to kill the old guy because he's gone too far. And he keeps, in my opinion, he keeps code talking to the entire world.
Yeah, which makes it more business than it is religious.
Okay, but and that's why I ask you. Well, you suggest, okay, I'll take that win. And it's interesting on what you just said, which I didn't know in this. He opens the curtains enough where Mateo's grandmother does something different.
Yeah, that's a good story.
She wouldn't have done before. But girl, you in danger, because the Illuminati is going to get him. And at the end of the day, one of the things that I think is really a big moment in terms of the nugget he drops on the table in Lisbon is he talks about America. And when you talk about religion in America and Africa, and then the Muslim world, those 3 places have similarities, all completely different. But what is it? Radical evangelicals. And people forget. And then you draw the note. There's evangelical Catholics. They're radical Catholics. Mm-hmm. And he's saying, wait, America is too evangelical. They're too radical. And that's the note he throws on the table, which is what brings the point of, girl, you in danger, because the Illuminati is going to get you.
And just to draw off the point of Africa, the reason why they're so evangelical is because Americans went to Africa and radicalized them. Like,
I welcome the Pope's comments, and keep giving it. You know, go on a business plan.
Yeah, you're right.
Every 30 days, here's another nugget.
You're right. You're right.
Maybe he's just pushing to see how far he can go until he does get one.
Hopefully,
God, I hope he doesn't get killed.
Hopefully, he dropped them out.
I'm making a joke.
All right. Well, that is today's news for the LGBTQ plus community on the world's first and only daily LGBTQ evening news show.
If our community is important to you, share this news with your friends and family. Are you, like most of America, part of our very large television audience watching this live LGBTQ plus news broadcast right now on Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, and Amazon Fire TV?
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ plus digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support. If our community is to grow, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world.
This is the only place in the world that tells these types of LGBTQ+ stories in motion and sound. That is the passion of HOTspots magazine, Happening Out Television Network, and Queer News Tonight.
I'm your anchor, Al Ferguson, and on behalf of these LGBTQ+ reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including Mateo Ventura Bruer, Bad Papi, Evyn Almanzar, and Jonathan Casanas. We will see you daily at 8 p.m. And to our LGBTQ+ world, we wish you
good night.
We are Queer News Tonight, the world's first and only live daily LGBTQ+ evening news show, brought to you from Happening Out Television Network. We operate in the same model of PBS and NPR, but for the LGBTQ+ community. We educate, inform, and entertain by supporting the 10 pillars of our LGBTQ+ community, with more than 100,000 a week watching us on Roku, Apple Television, and other channels. To keep the story going, we accept donations with 100% transparency. Stay updated and live authentically with Queer News Tonight.